I feel like I'm losing my mind here and my parents are draining me. Edit. I would like to say that first, I live in a heavily Mormon community, a lot of creeps here. My parents are not Mormon, it's just a lot of Mormons live here and it's the dominant religion. I feel like I'm losing my mind here. So I'm a 17F, about to graduate, so it's a given that my parents are a little on edge, not a little. No, they've thrown themselves off and hit every paranoia tree on the way down. So a little background, my parents are Hispanic Puerto Rico, so therefore I am. They are also heavily Catholic, so therefore I am not. I am diagnosed with ASD and ADHD, both attention and hyperactivity. So like I mentioned earlier, I'm about to graduate and that has made me take a step back and look at my life. I'm going to preface this by saying, my parents are not bad people, and I have been lucky enough to enjoy a nice comfortable life. They are flawed and I love them, but I don't think their rules are a good fit for me or my mental health. Anyway, I'm going to be 18 soon, and after I graduate I plan to head off to college. So something my parents are starting to do is trying to make me become more independent, which is not a bad thing in itself. The problem lies in their approach to this. I am the only girl in my family aside from my mother, so in a traditionally Hispanic Catholic household, I was the precious flower in need of protecting. I was never allowed to do anything. I couldn't go outside to play by myself. We lived on a military base, probably one of the safest places. I wasn't allowed to get dirty or sit with my legs up. Because I was a lady, these were just the small things. My father used to say to me, seen, not heard. He said this to all of us, my two brothers. One younger, one older, but to me he usually accompanied that with this phrase, ladies must not be loud. I didn't cut my hair because my mom thought I looked better with long hair and dresses. I couldn't wear shorts except under my dress, and around this time, I was being severely bullied by my classmates. They would pull my hair, put in it, touch it without asking, drop books on my head, trip me, tear up my papers, etc. And when I told my parents a month later, they got upset at me for not telling them earlier, and how it was my fault that it continued because I didn't fight back. I was 12 years old, so their solution was to tell me that every boy wanted to defile me, and how every girl was jealous and wished they could be me. So what happened? I started to feel that my self-worth was tied to my looks and virginity. I couldn't make regular friends, and the ones I did make I couldn't hang out after school again. Military base West Point, if you're interested. Super small. My friend lived down the road from me because my parents didn't trust them, and didn't think I could make good friends. And every time we went out, and still to this day, my mother will make comments on my clothing, about how much it's showing. And when I was young and on the playground, I was always scolded because older men were looking up my dress, and I was running around and acting childish. Still 12 here. My parents were sexualizing my body before I even had an idea about what that meant. When I started wearing bras, my parents would get upset if we were on a trip and my brothers complained that I wasn't wearing one. Not at me, but that my brothers and I were fighting. Huh? How was that my fault? But in the moment and the moments after that, I felt bad that I was going through puberty. It all came to a head when I was 13, and I was saw by the girl I called my best friend. And I broke. For as long as I can remember, my self-worth came from my purity and my innocence, and that had been taken from me by the person I called my best friend. I had been bullied before, but now it felt worse. I started to notice that boys were commenting on my body. People would, me and Jim. I forgot a bra for Jim one day, and a girl took me aside and scolded me for tempting the boys, all the while behind closed doors. My body was being taken from me without my consent. And once she cut me off from all my support systems. She told me she hated me and abandoned me. I had been so focused on what boys may do, nobody even seemed to look at what a girl may do. This is when I started trying to find myself. I realized I was bisexual, and this is when I started to argue with my parents more about going to church. How could I go to a place where everything told me I was a broken, damaged good, and what I wanted and what I felt didn't matter? I still respected their views in religion. I only wish they gave me that same respect. I didn't believe in God anymore. Because how could I believe in a being who is said to be loving and kind, when what happened to me was one of the most heinous things that could happen to a person? I begged and begged for anyone to come save me. I prayed and prayed, but nobody did. I can't believe in the idea of what God is. When He lets so many things happen, free will be damned. I've tried to tell my parents that I don't want to go to Mass because of my beliefs and what they've said about people like me, and my mother just says, while you live in my house, it is my job to teach you about the Lord. But I'm not forcing you to go, but if you choose not to go, you will bear the consequences when I get home. So I go, because I really have no other choice. My parents are the type to punish me until they've decided on a punishment. I can feel people stare at me. I've caught older men starring up my dress. I feel uncomfortable in my own skin and violated. But do my parents listen? No, because by setting my boundaries, I'm disrespecting them. I told them recently what happened to me, and first thing my mom said was, "Why didn't you tell me?" My mom is a therapist, by the way, has her doctorate in marriage and family therapy. I would have thought that of all people my mother would understand why I couldn't say anything. While I was being saw in my own home, the person told me, she said, "No one cares about you, you're alone. Look here, we are in your house and nobody is here to help." And when nobody did come, that cemented that thought process in my head. I finally gained the confidence to tell my mother and father, and my parents asked me if I could try to call her or her mom to try and sort things out. I waited until we moved out of the state to say something. Why would I want to call them? My father was upset that I didn't fight back, that I didn't say anything, and that he raised me better than this. This is the reaction they always have when I tell them something like this. Why didn't I do it sooner? My father has diagnosed PTSD and was, by his mother. Does he like to talk about it? No. Did he tell anyone during the time it was happening? No. And what he said to me broke the sliver of trust I had in my parents. He told me, after I had just told him how I was violated by the person I called my best friend, "I don't get why you lied to me, I have trauma, and some of it, mueka, which means doll, how fitting, probably is worse than yours." What? The ... He does have trauma and that is valid, but no trauma is worse than another. Why don't I trust them? Why don't I tell them about when I'm groped, dehumanized, and violated? Because every time I do, they make it about them, how I hurt them, how I lied to them. And somehow I'm always at fault. I gave them my trust and respect, and every time I try to set boundaries or share something with them, they spit in my face. Literally, my father spits a lot when he scolds me, and he has the habit of getting in my face, so when I tell him he's spitting on me, I'm being disrespectful for interrupting him and talking back. They've told me that spitting in someone's face is one of the most disrespectful things you could do. And all they've shown me is that I'm not allowed to be my own person, that I don't own my own body. They've told me this. Am I over WH? It happened to me? No, I still have trouble coming to terms with it. I keep thinking, what if I overreacted? What if I just imagined it? What if it's my fault? I have to work through it, but I won't be doing that with the people who throw my trust back in my face, this time covered in. I know they love me and I in turn, but that doesn't give them the right to do whatever they want because they're my parents. Because we're Hispanic, there is a hierarchy. Basically anyone who's older than you is better and worth more as a person, and you have to bend over backwards for whatever they want. If you don't, you're disrespecting not only them, but the people who raised me too. That is how it will be for the rest of my life. When my parents get older, it's expected that I take care of them full time, as well as financially support them. The only way I will be higher than someone in the hierarchy is if I or my brothers have children. I am never going to treat my potential offspring like I was. Nobody deserves to feel like they mean less than the rest of their family just because they're young. Nobody should not have the right to privacy or setting boundaries. My parents can set boundaries, but I can't because they're my parents, and the rules don't apply to them. It's giving Nixon vibes. They have parental controls on my phone, drawing tablet, and TV. Family Link, the app for 12-year-olds, I'm 17, they go through my journal, they go through my history, they are angry they don't have biometrics on my phone. They get upset at my password because they can't remember it. I've given it to them. I changed it to a pattern to make it easier for them. They go through my room trash, drawings, etc. They've removed my door, because I closed it, not locked it, closed it. I'm not allowed to lock my room. They don't trust me enough to chat with my friends on Discord. Some of them don't have a phone because I'm too naive, whatever that means. I can't spend my own money, and get in trouble if I use it to buy food. I can't go out with friends if my parents don't like them. They don't like a lot of them. They go through my sketchbook, and if they don't like what I drew, they ask me to shred it. If I refuse, they shred it themselves. It's usually just characters from a horror game, or supernatural characters, i.e. Wendigos, zombies, giraffes. I don't draw furry, like they think. That is nasty. They say it's too graphic and mature for me, the person who drew them. So I draw digitally and don't draw anything I like to draw. It's gotten to the point that when they threaten me with my phone, electronics, or whatever I've been hyper-fixating on, I don't care. I don't become emotionally attached to anything because I know that it is at risk of being destroyed. Strict parents can teach you a lot, like how to recognize who's walking by the sound of their feet, or how to fake being asleep, well enough to trick to military veterans. I have done this. Or my personal favorite, how to find a loophole in parental controls. Like just getting a second browser app and connecting it to a new email, then put parental controls on that email that you control from your drawing tablet, so they can't get control of that browser. Or how to remotely control the family computer and put in your parents' personal user history so they get upset at it and try to clear it, resetting their settings in their process, without having to touch it and leave no trail. I don't watch, but I do sometimes like to screw with them. Then they wonder how it got there, and if you get caught, just do the same thing a little differently. Strict parents aren't teaching their kids to be better than others, they're teaching them how to get better at hiding and finding loopholes. And then your kids don't trust you and you lose your relationship when they turn 18. It is my life, I'm not going to give it up just so I can cater and nanny to my parents' every whim. Don't get me wrong, if they need it I'll take care of them, but I'm not going to do it because I have to, and it's my obligation as their child to return the favor of them raising me. If I do, it will be because I want to, and I love them. That may sound cold and heartless, but I didn't choose to be born, they choose to have me. And when they did that, it is their obligation to raise the child they brought into the world. If they didn't want me, they shouldn't have had me. Get in, or put me up for adoption. But I'm not going to sacrifice my life just because they got a participation award for parenting. I love my parents, and I know deep down that they don't know what they do is hurtful. No matter how hard I try, I can't explain my feelings and how my experiences affected me, to people who didn't grow up with it, to people who don't want to understand because it challenges their worldview. There is a lot more, but this has gone on for way too long, and I don't think many people will read this whole thing. But if you did, thank you for reading my long rant, and it means a lot to me that people will listen.